Knowledge is an important aspect of every fighting game. Knowing frame data or knowing what an overhead looks like or recognizing a certain Oki setup will help you know how to counteract those situations and make a bit more of a calculated decision when it comes to defense. So today I'm going to help you guys ease into Under Night, give you guys some knowledge checks that you will see at least one for every single character in the game. And we are going to get started right with Hyde. I have the list of knowledge checks above me right here, so feel free to jump around to the character that you are looking to see if a certain knowledge check interests you. And it's important to know how to punish Hyde's pogo. This is a move that Hyde likes to use a lot for throw crushing, and you will often see it in this sort of situation where he will do run up, you will try to tech a throw, and then you will get punished either before or you get hit out of the startup like this. The reason this is so strong is because it's a TK special, so it'll go right off the ground and it'll immediately be throw invuln. What's good for us though, that this is actually punishable on block, and it is hard to react to, but you can hit Hyde out of the startup of the second part of the pogo. So you do have a bit of time. It's going to depend on your character what your best punish is. Kaguya is very privileged in this situation to have a great answer like 4B, a quick high hitting fast move, or even her 5C. Other characters are going to have to resort to going for an air normal, such as maybe Linne, whose ground normals might not reach high enough to hit Hyde. But you can combo off of air normals with every character in the game. So recognize when your opponent likes to go for this and keep it in mind just in case they do go for the pogo, so that you're ready to punish and make Hyde pay for it. Now Linne has a special projectile, her Kuga. You can do some pretty interesting things with it, but one of the most notable things is that you can dash cancel it. And the dash cancel can be pretty terrifying, because as you can see, after blocking this dash Kuga, I am -2. It means it's Linne's advantage to press here. But you can see if I walk a little bit farther, the frame data changes kind of drastically, even though I'm not moving that much, already becoming 0 instead of 2. If I dash block, for example, +3. If I'm really close, -5. Maybe could get a punish if I was playing a character with 5 frame normal. It's very important to recognize that it's very hard for Linne to block string into this and be plus. So recognize if I block these normals, I'm +3. Even if I'm blocking this at, you know, a range like the tip of her 5C, she's not actually going to be plus. See, I can actually press 5E here and hit her out of her approach. So if a Linne player is very committed to dashing in on you with a fireball and then pressing afterwards, be sure to actually check their dash and make sure that it's a plus frame advantage, because more than often it's probably not. Waldstein is a different character where he has 2 reversals, and it is important to be able to distinct which one is which. You will see when I knock him down that this is what the command grab looks like. He kind of pumps his chest out a bit, and if you look at 623, he kind of swipes his claws and brings his claws up. So it's important to be able to make the distinction between these 2 reversals, because one is invulnerable and one is a command grab. So you're going to want to be able to recognize which one it is so that you can punish Wald effectively. You don't want to give Wald this chance to get out of the corner, so it's pretty important that you actually recognize this. A lot of players will do an assault meaty like this. You'll see that I'm in the air, so I go over the command grab, because the command grab is the option people typically choose most of the time. But you do have to be careful of a Wald player who is cycling their options. So keep that in mind. If you're really getting owned by this, you can see the differences in the animations. So go into the lab, practice this, and you will be thankful for it next time you run into a wall. And a very important thing when you're fighting this character is to be able to shield 2-2A. 2-2A is the thing that Carmine does a lot of the time, and will leave him plus. You'll see that this move on block leaves Carmine at +2, I'm at -2. This move is very important to shield, because you can see if I shield it, I change the frame data by 3, and then I become +1, and I have a much better chance to take my turn. Otherwise, it's going to be very hard for you to get out of Carmine's pressure. So when you are playing against a Carmine player, look for the spots that they like to use 2-2A and take advantage of that. Another one that's very common is after IC60, because this is one of the only ways you can combo off of the move. So if you block it, you can tap shield, and then maybe take your turn depending on the situation. If there's a bomb down, obviously you're going to have to respect the bomb and other things like that. But on paper, if Carmine is doing this to you, and look to shield that 2-2A. Not going to get a punish, of course, but we'll be able to get some sort of momentum going. And against a character like Carmine, that is very nice to have. Alright, now we're going to be going into Orie. So Orie has her 2-1-4 is one of her biggest pokes. Very long range low poke. And you'll often see it used after certain moves. This is a very common string. Orie 2-4A into the B follow-up. 4B follow-up. And the reason why this is so common is because it's a low poke, and you will also get plus frames. So you'll see at the end of this, I'm -4, which is, you know, very hard to contest, especially against Orie. Even if I shield this, I'm still minus, and I'm right in Orie's kind of A thrust range, and that's a range you don't really have an option. Most characters won't have an option that's faster than what Orie can do. So it's better instead to shield the 2-1-4A and then hit her out of the in-between. Now, this is going to depend on the situation and the range, but you can see if I block this close range, I can't actually press 2B here. I will get counter hit. But if I shield the move, I have enough time to hit her out of this. So depending on the situation, this is going to be very helpful if you can recognize when the Orie player likes to do this. So a very common one too is going to be this after 6-6C. So you can look for that opportunity to go for a shield on the 2-4A and then take your turn. Or if they decided to go for the 2-4B, you can punish. Gordeau is a character with probably the most commonly known RPS situation in Under Night, and it's going to be his 6-6C into 2-2A. This is a 10 frame normal into a +7 move on block. So that means after they block this 2-2A and use 6-6C, that's a 3 frame gap we're not going to be able to press. So how do we get out of this situation? Well, the gap between the 6-6C and the 2-2A is actually 6 frames. So you'll see if I press Kaguya 5A, it's a 5 frame normal, or excuse me, 6 frame normal, and we will trade. Now, the problem here is that, as you can see, the next 2-2A is actually comboing. Gordeau is going to be able to get a pickup, and the 6-framer character is going to die. So depending on your character, you're going to want to actually shield the 6-6C and then press in between. A lot of people think that you want to press after the 2-2A because you're canceling, and that does kind of work. But this is a much smaller gap if you try to press here, so it can be a bit scarier. Because it is a 3 frame gap originally, and you will get hit for it. So this one, you can do some counterplay without shielding. So Kaguya's ADP is 5 frames, and I can get out just fine. You're going to have to shield the 2-2A if you want to press there. So it's more recommended to press after blocking the 6-6C, and then go for a 5 frame option. If you don't have a 5 frame option, shielding is going to be your best bet. And if you do have a 5 frame option, then you are good to go on defense against Gordeau. Another thing Gordeau has is his 2-2B into CS Fuzzy. This is one that maybe is definitely not as common, but it's something that is worth mentioning, I think. So Gordeau has this move, 2-2B, and it leaves the opponent with a head, or it's an overhead at the very end. And what you can do is you can assault and you can press JB, and you will see if you look at my inputs on the right side, I'm holding down back and I'm getting hit overhead standing. And what's happening is my character model is being stuck standing even though I'm crouch blocking because of how much block stun the initial overhead has. And it's important to be able to react to this assault and block it in time. It's pretty hard to do, but it's definitely worth just keeping your eye out for this and seeing if you can react it Gordeau does have some ways to beat this as well, like doing run up 5A, for example, instead of doing the overhead. So if you're cycling the overhead option, you might get hit low like that. So that is something you also want to look out for. If you're getting hit by that, JB, and you're like, why is that happening? Then now you know. Merkava has a pretty popular block string, being 6-6C into his 2-1-4A, his J2-1-4A. And this is kind of a weird one, because Merkava can cancel it at different times. You'll see this one, for example, is gapless. I can't mash or do anything. But what you will see is a lot of Merkava players do the charged version, or they'll delay it. And the charged version is going to leave a gap. You can either go for a reversal, or the more common answer is going to be a 3D. You'll see here that I actually land +1, so I'm not going to get a punish, but I will be able to start my turn and potentially do something. You see this cancel option a lot, because if it does hit, then you will be giving Merkava a combo. You can see he can combo off of the immediate and the regular, but it's going to be a bit range dependent. I don't actually know if he can pick up off of every range, but it's worth keeping this in mind. If you see the Merkava player doing this a lot, either use an invuln option or 3D, get out of the situation, but at least make sure that you are going for a shield when you see those fireballs. Vatista has a pretty common knowledge check with her 6-6C into A fireball. Right here in the situation, you can actually throw her out of this A ball, and her other option here is going for 2FF. But if she does the 2FF, then you will stay crouch blocking if you hold down back and mash throw. So you won't get opened by this low, which is safe on block, but you won't get hit by it. And you can throw her for resetting this pressure. So very nice to have. Another big knowledge check for Vatista is going to be her A flash kick into C ball. You'll see this a lot on her wake up. And it's important to be able to react and punish this set in time. It's kind of hard to do, but you do want to make sure that you're seeing the startup of this and trying to hit her out of it, because this is something you really don't want to let Vatista get away with. So I could do this, for example. You also may have a way of punishing her where if you can't tell the difference between the A and the B flash kick, for example with Kaguya, I can do a micro dash 5C, and I'll hit her out of the A ball, or out of the C ball. But if she does a B flash kick, then I can actually do the same input, and I will be in block stun. Or maybe I won't. But either way, you can see that you can sort of option select it, but I wouldn't actually recommend it. I would recommend being able to recognize the animation and then try and hit her out of it. At least get away from the ball if you can't punish it, because the punish can be kind of weird. Again, your character might have an easier time punishing. Just kind of set up the situation in the lab and tell the difference between the two, and then see if you can punish as well. I cannot. So Seth is kind of an interesting character, because I'm not going to tell you specific setups that you might get hit by, because I think you'll experience those through playing. But it's important, I think, to really understand how the orb travels. The orb locks onto your opponent, and once it starts firing, it no longer changes its trajectory. So you can kind of hear the shot, and then you can see I jump over it, and the orb goes under me just fine. I wouldn't recommend like listening for this sound while you're playing. It's kind of hard to hear while, you know, all this other stuff is going on. But getting used to just the timing of seeing the orb go out and then when it'll fire is really important, because you don't want to be just doing stuff and not paying attention and then getting hit out of your option or something like that. Or Seth blocks your move and then you get hit. It's also worth mentioning that you can destroy these orbs, so keep that in mind when they're going out. And if you end up near an orb, you go ahead and destroy it. Also worth mentioning, if he does use his force function to charge up the orb, it is indestructible, so be careful for that. So Yuzu is a bit of unique, where My tip for her is that the red mist is a lie. She can do a lot of things to show the kind of red mist you see when you change shift, which normally indicates that they're doing an attack that you can reversal through or DP through. But Yuzu has a couple of ways around that. So you're going to want to be a bit more wary when you CS against her and try and go for something. Because it can be a little misleading with what you can do. For example, you can see I block the slash, I chain shift, see the red flash, and I'm like, oh, she's doing a slash, right? But it could be a spot dodge, and you could get smoked for that. She can continuously dodge multiple times, so she could dodge through that DP totally fine. You'll also notice that it appears while she's teleporting, so even though it might look like a slash, it's actually not going to be a teleport. And the teleport is confusing because it doesn't have a hitbox, but despite that, it will show a red flash when you change it, so be careful. For Hilda, I have one that's pretty unique to her and maybe is one you've seen a lot playing against her online, and it's her teleport that she can do specifically out of the corner. The input is backdash, and then right after backdashing, you do up back A plus B, which does mean it's frame 1 emblem because the backdash is in here on a knockdown. She'll teleport out, and she'll be able to get out like this. Punishing her can be really obnoxious because your character doesn't turn around for a bit, so you might try to run over to the teleport, but you'll get caught backdashing. So you're better off using something with a bit longer range if you have something like that. Kaguya has a great answer with EX laser. That's very nice for her. Also worth mentioning that the Hilda player can make this a bit safer with chain shift by removing some of the recovery. But the teleport recovery will always be there to some extent, even if they do chain shift. So you can actually punish this even if they do have Warple available, if you do have a quick enough option. You also might be a quick enough character, so maybe you can run over. But you know, you can use things like Hyde laser, Wald 623 probably reaches, Carmine 6B or EA thrust, you know, things like that are going to be your best bet for punishment. For Chaos, I don't have too much to say other than to talk about his flipping force function. So you can actually hit Ozzy while he's on the wall like this. A lot of people don't know this. You can actually hit him even though this JA like doesn't hit behind her, doesn't hit behind Kaguya, for example. I can still hit him off the wall. It is worth mentioning, once he starts going, you cannot interrupt him. You do have to hit him before he gets there, but you also can't hit him before he gets on the wall. So the timing can be a bit unique. You are going to be able to react to it. If you're mid-screen, it's kind of hard to punish. You know, not everyone is going to be as privileged as Kaguya with her JB here. But if you are full screen against the wall, you should be looking to hit Ozzy here. Also worth mentioning, if your Chaos opponent is punishing you and you're blocking during this, you are obviously going to have to hold this. This is specifically for neutral, when Chaos players like to set this and try to get a neutral skip free, because this move is very plus on block. For Nanase, I have to talk about it's just B fireball, dash up, throw. This is a situation where you see the fireball and you might want to shield it, but you are going to get thrown by Nanase before she gets to you. Your options in this situation, since they're pretty annoying, you can go for a jump over the fireball, but keep in mind that she can use her 6B to angle the fireball upwards and hit you. So that is kind of risky. Dash blocking into the fireball is a great option if you're close enough. So I can dash block into this fireball and remove the strike throw situation immediately. And if you're really on top of it, you can go for a sliding shield and even get some free grid that way. But if you are a bit farther out, it is going to be a bit harder for you to contest this, especially since she can run up and block. So if you try to check her, for example, the fireball can come in afterwards and hit you. So it's better if you're close enough to actually try and block the fireball on purpose, because lots of times they're going for a strike throw mix up here, and dash blocking into the fireball will not only guarantee you some grid, but will just remove that strike throw situation altogether. Also, you know, don't be afraid to just take this throw as well. Nanase's throw actually does less damage if the fireball hits you during it. So don't be too scared of this situation, you know, get comfortable with Nanase running it upon you. You'd definitely rather take the 1500 damage than a full combo. So for Byakuya, I want to actually talk about his flip. He has a couple options out of this flip. So he can do a delayed overhead with JA. His JB will teleport him away and do a air follow-up that's mid. And then his JC follow-up will bring him straight to the ground and go for a low. The way you can beat this is that while he's flipping, he either has an overhead option or a mid option. And after he teleports, it's either mid or he goes low. So the best way to block against this is to look for both the teleports and not teleporting and be able to fuzzy block it. So I'm going to stand block, and if I don't see a teleport, I'm not going to go down. See there, I saw the teleport, so I go low. Teleport, I go low. A little tricky timing there. Teleport, I go low. Okay, I got caught. It is hard to block. I'm not saying this is, you know, the easiest thing, but it's important to at least know this and at least try and go for it, because the more you go for it, then you'll be ready for it next time. This delay overhead can be really cheeky, so just keep that in mind. Get that timing down, and look for the teleport. It's that easy. Phonon actually has some pretty popular knowledge checks she's known for. The first one is going to be on her 6FF force function. Her B follow-up is an overhead. And this is not reactable. It's a very fast overhead. But she does not have a low option that hits at the same time. So similar to the Byakuya mix-up, we're going to be sort of blocking this in a fuzzy way so that we don't get hit by a low. I think her only low option is just raw canceling of the 2C. I'm not actually sure. I can tell you though, there's no other low that can come at this timing. So if you are playing against Phonon and she is doing this and you're getting hit by it, keep this in mind because the timing of the overhead cannot change. So I'm going to block here. See, you can see I actually blocked that 2C even though I stood up for a second to block the overhead. See that? So try not to get opened up by this. I know in the heat of the moment you can get hit by it, right? It happens to everybody. These knowledge checks obviously have, you know, you're not going to do it every time. But you definitely want to keep these in mind while you're playing, just so you are getting better at them. Another very common one for Phonon, just a quick one, for J22C and also grounded to 2C. These are overheads. So you are going to want to block them standing. You can see if I crouch block, I'm getting smoked. Phonon does not have any EX lows. So if you really want to, when you see this EX flash, if you don't want to think about it too much, just stand up when you see a Phonon EX, and you'll probably be okay. You might just remember to go back down if you see install activation or things like that, so you don't get hit by a quick 2A afterwards. So Mika, very well known for her tornado and EX moves, one of the most straightforward characters in the game, but her options are fairly strong when it comes to her special moves and EX moves, even though she doesn't have that many of them. And it's important to know the counterplay. So we do have Mika EX Missile, very well known mix-up tool. This is a cross-up. This does not have cross-up protection, so you can do something like this, for example, and it will be a mix-up. But it's very important to note that if she is shielded, she can no longer cancel into any more missiles. So you can see here if I'm blocking, Mika's going back and forth like crazy because I blocked the missiles. But if I shield one, that's not the last one, you'll see she stops. And I'm plus 20. So you can punish her for this quite well. Mika player is taking a risk. Now your shield can get crossed up, right? So if she flies over you and then you try to like assault, for example, you will get hit out of the assault and then she can maybe combo you off of that. So that's worth keeping in mind. This also makes just jumping and air shielding quite a good option against her as well. Don't do it in neutral randomly, but you know, if you see her going for an EX missile, Something like that, for example. Also, worth mentioning, I don't have a showcase for it, but lots of Mikas will go for like meaty EX missile situations, or they can EX low enough to where it's still plus on shield. So you do want to be careful of those. And when you're in the corner, I would definitely recommend delay teching against Mika, because if you're just waking up at the regular time every single time, then she can go for some really nasty, hard to block mix-ups. So definitely just delay tech or playing against a Mika player, what I would recommend, and very good against Oki characters. All right, Wagner. One of the most well-known situations is this: you block the DP, you go to punish, and then you get hit out of whatever your punish is. And that's because this is an ADP and not a BDP. It's pretty hard to tell, but it's worth knowing which is which. You can see ADP has a little pause at the start, and BDP is a lot more fluid in the motion. Yeah, you can even see if when I block all 3 hits, you can see how fast the BDP rises and how slow the ADP is. So don't get baited by Wagner players doing ADP and then delay EX dive to try and punish your punish attempts. It is hard to hit her, but you know, at the very least, just don't get hit in this situation. Even if you can't punish her, just try and block the situation out, and at least you're not getting hit, because that's what really matters. All right, now we have Enkidu. Enkidu, very well known for pressing this 6FF button. -4 on block, so hard to punish, which means he can press parry afterwards, because parry is frame 4, right? So it's a very RPS-y situation on block. Also worth mentioning that you can actually do something when your normal gets hit. So you can see I can actually react to the force function and DP back. Now this is very hard to do. You can also chain shift, which is very nice. If you do block this move like this, make sure you're shielding it. Again, it's -4. So you're not going to be able to punish unless you shield, and the pushback on it is a bit weird to go for a throw. That's not something you're going to want to go for. But it's worth noting that if you are doing an armored move, you can do something to cancel. That was really weird. And if you are trying to punish this move, be careful. Punish is not guaranteed if you don't shield it, and also keep in mind that they can go for a cancel and a parry. Alrighty, next up we have Lond. Lond can be pretty scary because of this JC. JC is a very strong move that Lond has access to, and it's even more empowered by whipping into J3B and coming down with nothing. You can see this on regular block. If I do increase JC into increase J3B, the J3B will not come out, and Lond will be +2. Now, this move by itself is also +2, and it hits twice. So you may think, okay, I'm going to shield the second hit and punish him, which is a punish. You can do this, but you can cancel the first hit into the J3B, whiff, and still be +2. And then you run into this situation. Like this. I try to shield the second hit. I miss. He does run up throw, and I get grid broken for it. So shielding this move is very scary to do. Also, if you shield the first hit, all you do is remove the cancel into J3B. So you'd have to shield both hits, which is extremely hard to do to get a punish. So the answer to this is, to be honest, kind of just VO. This is a very tough situation to get out of, and it's very strong for Lond. You can do it in a lot of great situations where, like, if he's in the corner, for example, and he's trying to fight his way out, you can just do this, and he'll be plus, which can be very strong. This is also a move you'll find Lons do a lot as an OS. So if I run up and throw him, sometimes he'll tech the throw, and then sometimes if I throw too slow, the jump startup will just hit me out of my throw. So this is something very important to look for when fighting against Lon. Some characters backdashes, if you try to go for a backdash shimmy, can get caught by this, like this. So it's good to have a button that hits kind of high up, so you can do something like that, for example, because this is Lon's very strong option select OS, and I think what really makes him like a top tier character. So you definitely want to try and scout this out. As hard as it is, you are going to have to be able to stop your opponent Lon player from doing this, because otherwise they're going to be doing it a lot. Obviously the answer here is to hit them out of their startup, but that can be then done. Tsurugi, one of the new characters on the block. His force function stance, definitely one of his most notable things. He's got a forward advancing option, he's got a sliding low option, and he's got a hop option that he can do any air normal out of. And also you can just act freely, basically. Except for assault. It's assault now, I know. These options can be hard to deal with. As you may know, Tsurugi force function stance does lose to lows. And that's going to be your most generic option to counterplay this. You can even see on the right side it says barrier breached when I hit him out of this. And that will tell you that you punish the force function and you can actually go for a combo. The scary thing, though, is that he is going to have an option like this to go right over and hit you out of your option. You can see this is kind of a weird situation between these two characters with their low options. But you can see what I mean, that going for a low here isn't guaranteed. You can also cancel the force function extremely fast. Which is something you kind of have to be careful of. You can do stuff like that. The low option is also pretty strong and goes quite far. This always clips me walking backwards because all these hits are lows. No, they're not. I lied. Only the first hit that gets to you is going to be a low. I see. But this can really snipe your toes, and he gets a full combo off of this. So it's something you're going to want to be aware of. There isn't really a hard answer to Tsurugi's force function stance, but you really want to keep in mind how your opponent is using it in neutral. For example, if they like doing this a lot to get in, then you're going to want to go for a more high-hitting move. If they like to go for the slide, then you could do something like neutral jump, for example, and hit them out of it. Confirm might be weird. Good to know. There we go. So keep that in mind. Just really pay attention to how your opponent likes to do it. It's one of those things that's kind of canned RPS in a situation where a game gives you specific options and it will beat specific things and lose to specific things. And it's kind of just cutthroat. That's just how it is. So keep in mind how your opponent likes to use it. Don't let them flip around on you like that. Next character, we've got the GOAT Kaguya on screen. We're talking about her EX nades and how people get a little scared of them and block strings, and they shouldn't be. So a lot of Kaguya players will do things like this. Boom, 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 EX nade. And that's a pretty typical block string you might see. But it's worth noting that these don't actually lock you down immediately. You can see I can even like run out there and like get some distance. I can even fully run out. Now that JB is kind of nice to stop the approach. But you can see your options here are not as limited as you might think. Another very common spot that you might see this is like this. And this is going to be a similar situation, except you're probably closer when she does this to you. She's doing ADP EX nades, so you can take advantage of the situation like that as well. Characters like Linne can really zoom fast. Wald can just press 3C on reaction and just snipe her out of the air. So I definitely would recommend just doing ADP EX nade on your block and just seeing what you can do to beat it. because you'll be surprised at what you can get away with in this situation. And you might be thinking, okay, well she can air dash, right? So what if she air dashes away? And you're right, she can air dash away. But the situation here is not going to be that crazy, right? It's not like she gains a ton of benefit from this, and then she is stuck in the air without her air dash. So if she does decide to jump away, for example, you can kind of take advantage of that. You can also just run out completely. So just keep in mind your options here, because it's really not as locking down as I think some people think, because sometimes I'll set my own EX grenades and people will just freeze up and just let me do whatever I want. But don't be afraid. Get in there and get your hands dirty and take down Kaguya. Alrighty, now we've got Kuon. His 236AA, one of his most popular zoning options, was recently nerfed. So you'll see this is -6 on block. It used to be -3, I think, or -4. I think -4. So that is a nice nerf that he's had. This is kind of hard to contest. You'll notice that Kaguya's lasers don't even go through it. Now this is notably a very bad matchup. So that's worth mentioning. You can shield the last hit to make it a bit better for you. But this move does have some dead zones. Also, if you roll it, it's very minus on roll. You can see I'm plus 21 here if I 3D it. So if your Kuon player is getting a bit too predictable with that, you can do that. If you block it, you can also jump forward. Dash jump will go over it if you're close enough. Which is very nice for you. Be careful if you fall into the pillar like this, because you could get EX wheeled into unblockable. So be careful of that. But you'll see that your options here are maybe not as limited as you might think. Now Kuon can obviously just not do another 236, but it's important to know that you can do things like jump like this, for example, and get over his laser option, and this might also go over some normals, for example. It's worth keeping this stuff in mind so that you can apply counterplay to whichever Kuon you're playing against, because everyone plays differently. I didn't know I could do that T air dash. That's pretty cool. Oh, wait. Alright, now we've got the latest character in the game. We've got Uzuki. One of her most notable things is her dolphin. Her 236, her Totsugeki, as you may say, is -3 on block, and you'll notice too the frame rate is consistent. If I block it all the way over here, no matter what, he ends up -3. And the range might be consistent too. I'm not actually 100%. But it's important to know your options in this situation, because a -3 is not, you know, guaranteed situation afterwards. Even if you shield this move and you're -6, you're not going to get to punish this, right? Because you're just too far away for your 6-framers to connect. Unless maybe you're Orie, but I don't think so. So Uzuki on block here can do a couple different things, right? So she can do a backdash, right? Now her backdash is not the best, so she might not be doing this. The most obvious is going to be double dolphin, right? Because that's, you know, we get it. You play Guilty Gear Strive, you like May, you know what I mean? So knowing how to beat something like this is important. And you'll see that I can 5B here, and I can hit her out of it, which is nice. But as you saw earlier, by 5B, it actually whiffs, and only the 5BB connects. And that can be a little spooky. 2B has some good range on it as well, but as you can see, if she crouches, then I'm not going to catch her. So I would take some time to lab what you can do to beat certain situations. So like 5C, not quite. Maybe if I'm closer. Yeah, if I'm close enough, this 5C makes her block. That's pretty good. But is it quick enough to beat the dolphin? It is. That's something very nice for Kaguya to have. Another option she can do is she can go for a backdash, right? You can see on this backdash, we both end up 0, actually. So reset to neutral, not a bad option for her. If I want to catch this backdash, though, I have to do something like 236C. And if I'm doing 236C, then I'm going to get hit out of my laser by the dolphin. So lab your certain options that you have against this. For me, Kaguya, 2B is going to catch a lot of her stuff that she does standing, which is really nice for me. 5C is nice if I'm close enough as well. If she jumps, for example, the 5C is going to whiff, right? But 2B, the goat, is going to catch. So lab the different options that you have against what she likes to do on block, especially when you play against an Uzuki player. If they do something after Dolphin that you don't know how to beat, then hop in replay takeover and assess the situation yourself. All right, so we've got Eltnum getting down to the last couple characters. Her 6-6C is a very notable move in this game, and it's very strong. It's very easy to hit confirm, has a frame trap, safe on block cancel, and can even keep the pressure going if you do some tricky stuff with maybe purple bullets or some force function stuff and things like that. So how do we beat this move? Well, 6-6C, it's very important to note. This first hit is special cancelable, but if you are shielding this move, it's -5 on block. But if you try to take your turn, you can just 2-2A you, and this is basically her best starter outside of 2-2B. So you don't really want to get hit by 2-2A and try and take your turn or punish. Even going for a throw punish can be pretty scary. This 2-2A by itself is going to be gapless. So if we're mashing throw to try and hit her, she can delay it slightly, and even if she leaves a 4-frame gap, strike and throw in the same frame, you're going to get hit. So keep that in mind when you're trying to punish this move, because you don't really want to press on it unless you shield it. Shielding it, however, is very rewarding. This isn't overhead, by the way, the second hit. She cannot special cancel this, so this is a guaranteed punish. And you can even do this if the first hit whiffs. And you can do this on a reaction. It's very hard to do, and if you do it, and you know, she does nothing, or she goes for this, right? And you mess up the shield. Wow, that didn't catch. She can grid break for you for it, and this is part of the RPS, right? So shielding it on a reaction is the like kind of certified go-to way to beat the move. Also worth mentioning that if she does do this, the second hit, if you shield this first hit, excuse me, the second hit will not be special cancelled. Now, this is not punishing because I'm playing Kaguya. She's a 5-frame character. Why is this randomly -4? Character's broken. Okay, if you shield the first one, you can throw punish. Or if you're a real gamer, you shield both, and then you can get a real punish. I don't know why it's -4 randomly for shielding the first one. Because Eltnum things, I guess. But maybe it's a Kaguya her box thing, I don't know. But either way, shielding 6-6C is going to be your best way out, but just make sure you're doing it in reaction, and you're shielding the second hit as well. Even though shielding the first hit will make them not be able to cancel, hard to get that punish. So shielding that second hit is really what's going to matter, and it will maybe stop your Eltnum player from throwing this out all the time, because it is a very strong tool. All right, we come to our last character. Also has some of the most commonly known knowledge checks in this game. Most obvious one being the Bitatsu, because it's normally -4 on block. You aren't going to be able to punish this move, but if you shield it, then you will be able to punish. The reason why this is so good to know is because this move is gapless. There's no threat of being thrown here, despite the fact that they're going for this. Now, the Akatsuki player can stay safe. They can go for an EX Fireball, and they can still cancel even on shield. And you can see, even if I try to DP this after shielding, I cannot. If the Akatsuki player is a bit more greedy and they're going for landing into the EX Fireball, you'll see I can't do anything. But if they do the EX and I shield the last hit, then I can actually invuln through this and punish. So this is very important to know. I can get Akatsuki players off of you. Also, the last hit's an overhead, so just keep that in mind. But you really need to be careful when your opponent has chain shifts, because they can bait your shield, excuse me, by catching you with a CS. So if I go to shield this third hit, they can chain shift and bait it, and then throw me out of my green shield, and I will get grid broken. You definitely want to not do this when your opponent has Vorpal, because you're putting yourself in a very risky situation for not that much reward when they have chain shift, and it's very very bad to be grid broken. Really don't want to get grid broken. Then we also have another very common knowledge check is going to be 66C 236A. Very similar to Gordeau, where the challenge here can be a bit confusing. So you can see if I try to press after the blocking the fireball, I'm going to get hit out of it. And if I press after blocking the foot, I'm also going to get hit out of it by the fireball. So you actually want to be dash blocking in this situation to lower the frame advantage, and then you can take your turn and try and get out. It's also helpful to shield here. Shielding is also advised, if just to help your frame data situation. But getting what's it called? Getting green shield here, very risky, as Akatsuki's pretty plus when he's doing this, so the green shield's gonna make him even more plus, and then you're in danger of getting grid broken on reaction. You definitely want to keep your shields and such in check. But I think that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope all these knowledge checks were useful. I know that there might be some things maybe I didn't cover, or maybe you can leave some tips in the comments for certain things. But if I were to make a video covering every knowledge check in the game and things you should know about fighting each character, this video would never end. So this is what I'm going to give you guys for now. Hope it helps. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.